Hello, I'm Dr. Ann West, bringing you truth from the source. If you've just joined us today for the first time, stay tuned. There's probably something especially for you to hear. Every month, I share with you progressive information to assist those of us who are willing to be a part of the world's solutions and not a part of the problem. So stay with us and share in the alternative ways to heal yourself and your world around you. Welcome to Truth from the Source. Thank you for joining us on Truth from the Source. I'm your host, Dr. Ann West, and I'm going to continue with part 4 on the path to enlightenment. The reason I chose the path to enlightenment is because there's many spiritual practices, no matter what religion or doctrine you follow, that we can adapt in our everyday lives that can really help us to progress up the spiritual ladder and actually have divine feelings, essences, the purest essence of divine love in our everyday experiences that is within our reach right now if we were to involve ourselves with some new practices. So the reason for this series for me is to share with you progressive ways that you can tap into the highest vibrational frequency possible through spiritual practices and remain in whatever denomination you already are in. So welcome, 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 and maybe you'll join us for a part of this journey. Aloha and namaste. I'd like to welcome Yogani. Thank you for coming back for part 4 of our path to enlightenment. And this part is Tantra, what that role has in our spiritual advancement. Welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ann. It's good to be here again.
I'm having a wonderful time on this discovery, this path of self-discovery with you and with the aypsite.org. Going to the website and nourishing myself if ever I have any questions.
Well, thank you. It makes it very worthwhile for me. The more people that can benefit, that's what AYP is for. So I'm thrilled to be here talking with you so that even more people can find out about what we're doing.
So today we're going to talk about Tantra and discovering the power of pre-orgasmic sex. Now, I know you've written a book about this, Yogani, and it's an excellent book, and it's an audio book, which I've been listening to as well as the written book. I just want to let our audience know that although we've got the site to go to, Yogani has written books on all of these subjects that we're talking about, and this tantric book is particularly excellent. It's really worth checking out. Discovering the Power of PreOrgasmic Sex. Let's start with what that is. What is Tantra?
Well, Tantra is a very broad area of spiritual practice and experience, which actually goes back to predating just about everything else that's been done spiritually in India over the centuries, many centuries. In fact, on the dedication page of the little Tantra book that we're talking about, I pulled a quote from a scripture that's 4,000 years old, and I'll read it just briefly.
Mm-hmm.
But before I do, I'd like to mention that this book really just focuses on the sexual side of the very broad field of Tantra, and we can bring some of the other elements of practice in as they relate to, as we talk about sexuality and its role in our spiritual development. But here's the quote, which really captures the essence of the whole subject when it comes to sex and spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
At the start of sexual union, keep attention on the fire in the beginning, and, so continuing, avoid the embers at the end. So that really says it all, and that's where the title of the book comes from, Tantra, Discovering the Power of PreOrgasmic Sex. So it's a very simple principle that's involved here. It's basically just very gently favoring staying in front of orgasm in the sexual act or whatever situation we might be in where we might be dealing with the human sexual orgasm. And in doing so, there is a cultivation that occurs, and that cultivation is the part of the transformation of sexual energy into spiritual energy as it goes higher up in the neurobiology of the human body. So that's it. And it does not stand alone. This is one of the misunderstandings about Tantra that I think we have in the West. In fact, it's called, in terms of the way the West thinks about Tantra, it's called Neo-Tantra or New Tantra. And
Nouveau
there's
Tantra.
a great emphasis on the sexual aspect of Tantra. But actually, it's just one aspect of a broad range of spiritual practices which work together when they're integrated into a daily routine.
Well, I think with what we've been doing, showing each month the different aspects, this spiritual practice with the meditation and the breathing and other aspects that we'll be going into next month, I think we're showing that, aren't we? The scope.
Yes, I think so. And as we have discussed in the previous interviews, which incidentally are available on the aypsite.org website, so anybody who's missed the previous interviews can go back and listen to them. But as we discussed before, there are really two main pillars to the process of human spiritual transformation. And one of those is the cultivation of abiding inner silence in our everyday experience, which comes mainly from practicing deep meditation daily. And then the other pillar is what we call the rise of ecstatic conductivity, which is better known by the word kundalini, and spinal breathing pranayama, which we talked about last time, is one of the primary techniques for that. That's a breathing technique which clears out the subtle neurobiology. Now, Tantra is also part of the cultivation of ecstatic conductivity because the source of ecstasy in the human body comes from within the loins, within the pelvic region. And we begin to address that with spinal breathing pranayama when we're sweeping the area from the perineum or root up to the third eye or the brow, the point between the eyebrows. So that's the beginning of the cultivation of ecstatic conductivity. And when we begin to address it more specifically in a more localized way, that's when we get into Tantra. And it's really not possible to avoid addressing the sexual element in one way or other.
I think that it's good to actually address it, because to forbid ourselves for going into that realm of sexuality is like chopping off a limb.
Well, it can be, and
it's so natural.
We see it in the religions. You know, there's a sort of a simplification of the whole process of managing sexual energy with the use of celibacy or avoidance of sexual activity, which can be one approach to it, because when there is sexual continence or not engaging in sexual activity, then the energy does become activated because it has to go somewhere. The energy we have in our pelvic region, in our sexual biology, is the greatest source of energy in our body, and when we limit its outward flow for reproduction, then it begins to do other things. However, if you just try and do this with celibacy without having some sort of means of cultivating this energy, either in activity or in sexual engagement or whatever, then it can manifest in all sorts of unhealthy ways, which from recent modern history, we know that there have been some serious problems in this area in the priesthood of the Catholic Church.
Yes, so they're working out their
sexual energy just runs amok if there is this call for celibacy with no real direction to cultivate it.